Man's Search for Meaning, page 118. The super meaning. This ultimate meaning necessarily exceeds and surpasses the finite intellectual capacities of man. In logotherapy, we speak in this context of a super meaning. What is demanded of man is not, as some existential philosophers teach, to endure the meaninglessness of life, but rather to bear his incapacity to grasp its unconditional meaningfulness in rational terms. Logos is deeper than logic. A psychiatrist who goes beyond the concept of super meaning will sooner or later be embarrassed by his patients, just as I was when my daughter, at about 6 years of age, asked me the question, "Why do you speak of the good Lord?" Whereupon I said, "Some weeks ago, you were suffering from measles, and then the good Lord sent you full recovery." However, the little girl was not content. She retorted, "Well, but please, Daddy, do not forget, in the first place, he had sent me the measles." However, when a patient stands on the firm ground of religious belief, there can be no objection to making use of the therapeutic effect of his religious convictions and thereby drawing upon his spiritual resources. In order to do so, the psychiatrist may put himself in the place of the patient. That is exactly what I did once. For instance, when a rabbi from Eastern Europe turned to me and told me his story. He had lost his first wife and his 6 children in a concentration camp of Auschwitz, where they were gassed, and now it turned out that his second wife was sterile. I observed that procreation is not the only meaning of life, for then life in itself would become meaningless, and something which in itself is meaningless cannot be rendered meaningful merely by its perpetuation. However, the rabbi evaluated his plight as an Orthodox Jew in terms of despair that there was no son of his own who would ever say Kaddish for him after his death. Kaddish is a prayer for the dead. But I would not give up. I made a last attempt to help him by inquiring whether he did not hope to see his children again in heaven. However, my question was followed by an outburst of tears, and now the true reason for his despair came to the fore. He explained that his children, since they died as innocent martyrs, were thus found worthy of the highest place in heaven. But as for himself, he could not expect, as an old sinful man, to be assigned the same place. I did not give up, but retorted, "Is it not conceivable, Rabbi, that precisely this was the meaning of your surviving your children, that you may be purified through these years of suffering, so that finally you too, though not innocent like your children, may become worthy of joining them in heaven? Is it not written in the Psalms that God preserves all your tears? So perhaps none of your sufferings were in vain." For the first time in many years, he found relief from his suffering through the new point of view, which I was able to open up to him. Just a personal note here again. It is, of course, not possible for any human to earn his way to heaven. And secondly, there are no different levels in heaven. Once people are in heaven, they would all be in the same place. And also, just referring to this account of the little girl saying that it was God who sent the measles. That is, in most cases, not true, because disease and everything on this planet, everything negative, is a consequence of separation from God. So the bad things coming to us is not from God, but rather as a consequence of us being separated from God by sin. And in these are the enemy's attacks. It's the devil attacking us through disease and other things. There are some cases where God can directly send an act of judgment, but in most cases, these are not sent directly from God, but rather a consequence of being separate from God.